What if your mother's 82 years old, has had multiple heart attacks and multiple stents, and a cardiologist starts her on a terminal infusion and sends her home to die? What do you do next? Welcome back to Montgomery Heart Wellness, and we have another clinical rounds for you today. And often these patient presentations seem fairly straightforward. At least we try to make them straightforward. However, the one we're discussing today is quite complex. This is from what I would call an 82-year-old lady who her daughter brought her to our center, and she was on a wheelchair, on oxygen, and she was on a melanoma pump. What more do you have to share about her?
In our office, she was very sick and weak, and essentially she had recently suffered a heart attack and she had a stent, but despite that, in the hospital, heart was only pumping 20%, so they put her on the renewal.
And she had multiple admissions. I remember she went in with decompensated heart failure and a catheter. She got a stent, at least maybe on the first time, and then after that, she had more decompensated heart failure based on her records. And so I think a cardiologist, she was 82, they put on Milrinone, which, is kind of an end-stage drug for heart failure patients. Typically, you may get it if you're waiting on a transplant or on LVAD, but she wasn't a candidate for those. So I think her daughter said they gave her, 2 months to live? Or
Right. They told her a few months, and they weren't really encouraging. And so they wanted to come here to see what else could be implemented to also just improve her quality of life.
So we started on the detox regimen. She was very thin and frail. Now, one thing I like to point out, many individuals think nutritional detox and raw is just for weight loss. And we use this regimen not just for weight loss because she was a very thin, frail lady. It's not about weight loss, but metabolic cleansing. So she started off with a detox regimen, but she had some challenges with the raw.
She had some challenges and wanted to eat and enjoy some warm cooked foods. A little fluctuation in the compliance in the beginning. And then you remember we had to admit her, I believe on her second, maybe third visit. We really need to get her off that Milrinone because it's not intended for long-term use, especially in the outpatient.
And we felt that it was having some adverse effects. Her heart rate was always up.
Right.
It was causing some stress on the heart. And just for those of you who are not medical people, Milrinone is a special drug given intravenously, and it forces the heart to squeeze forcefully. A heart that's weak, it's almost like a horse that's slow and weak. You whip it extra hard, you force it to run, and you're just squeezing the last little amount of energy out of it. Now, that's okay for short durations in the hospital when you just need the heart to pick up enough to turn things around. But what they've shown with this medication in oral form is that when you get around 6 to 7 months, it has an increased cause of death compared to people who are not on it. So she was around that time duration when she came to see us. And so this Milrinone medicine was starting to have an adverse effect, even though her ejection fraction when she came on the Milrinone was 50% compared to 20% prior to her coming. Even though it had her heart squeezing more forcefully, you know that it was just a matter of time that it was going to wear the heart out. So we had to detox her as quickly as we could. The diet wasn't perfect. We started some of the infusion therapies. We were able to admit her to the hospital. We gradually weaned her off the Milrinone, which I think in and of itself helped her. And now that she was on the plant-based diet, I think, she got one ozone infusion product just starting, right? Or did she?
The ozone, I think, started right after that.
Right after that, okay.
Before actually her ejection fraction had gone down to 40 on the Milrinone, and because we checked it twice and then admitted her. So we already were starting to see the Milrinone turn into a negative effect on the heart. When she came back out of the hospital, still on the plant diet, but with improved compliance. And then we really ought to be consistent with the high-dose ozone therapies. She got some Plaque X infusions as well to help her renal function too.
It also helps open arteries up and improve perfusion. And many of you may, if you've seen some of our other videos, we've talked about these regenerative therapies, which are very, very powerful. They're very powerful adjuncts to the nutritional regimen, which in and of itself is very powerful. Individuals like her who just are really teetering on critical, ICU or death's door, these regenerative therapies help accelerate the overall recovery. And so in her case, the ozone, which has a very powerful antioxidant effect, it improves mitochondrial function. So what that means is that The mitochondria cells are like your cell batteries. The ozone is like a recharging of the cell batteries. So when you recharge the cell batteries, especially those heart muscle cells, they function more effectively. So it's a natural recharging, and it allows the body to use oxygen more efficiently. So normally, let's say normally you're supposed to take 2 units of oxygen and make, say, 34 units of ATP, which is the energy currency of the cell. People who are weak and down like her may take 2 units of oxygen, only make, say, 4 units of ATP. And so that's not very efficient. But when those cells are recharged, that 2 units of oxygen can go back up to 34 units of ATP, so it becomes 17 times more effective. And so this is some of the things that we see with the ozone. The plaque X, as I said before, helps open up the arteries, improve perfusion in the kidneys, as you mentioned, and also in the heart. So we started to see this improvement in her.
Her energy really picked up, and really soon she was walking and not in the wheelchair, off the oxygen. And she was walking fast down the hallway and more energetic, happy. You really saw her personality come out, and it was really good to see her feeling so much better.
Yeah, her mental clarity improved by a daughter's account. And many of you have seen my videos on the liver, and it's associated with dementia. Heart failure patients have liver congestion, so our liver was compromised. And so when the liver's compromised, the blood's not cleared, and so you start to get cognitive decline. So you behave like a demented patient, even though it may not have been primary dementia. Now, she probably had some cerebral vascular disease, which is being corrected also. But the fact that the liver is being less congested, that helped in one area as well as the brain. And so her energy picked up, we reduced the medications, and her numbers really improved. What are some of the improvements that we saw?
When her inflammation went down a lot, so the C-reactive protein that we talk a lot about, that went down by 46% from baseline. Her ejection fraction, so the course of that's more complicated, but essentially after we took her off the milrinone, the ejection fraction did go down a little bit because we're taking her off the medication that directly increased contractility. So it went down at one point to 30, but then it increased up to 35%.
But a true baseline ejection fraction was 20%, because that was pre-milrinone, and we know the adverse effects of milrinone. So really, the apples to apples change was 20% to 35%, so 75% improvement there. And the medication went down.
Yeah, her medications went down about 60%, so less inflammation, less medications, better heart function, going from just a few months to live to like a whole year now. That was amazing improvement.
Yes, and it's a quality year, not just a year being in and out of the hospital. She's been out there going on a cruise, like you said, and function at a very high level. So, and just one final comment I'll make is the medication reductions. I always like to emphasize that because she's eating cleaner food, which is having less metabolic insult on the liver and the kidneys and the brain, and she's taking fewer medications, which again decrease the metabolic insult on the kidneys, the liver, and the brain. So you have to remember that the whole concept here is that when you're consuming poor nutrition, which is full of animal proteins, saturated fats, chemical preservatives, toxins, then that's a metabolic insult on some of your key vital organs. And then the medication that we use to treat the side effects of these foods is another medication insult. So once she gets on a natural recovery, you remove one metabolic insult, you need to remove the other metabolic insult, and you have remarkable changes like this. So
yeah, I think her case illustrates really the power of all the integrative approaches, the ozone, the plaque X, the diet. She did the sauna and beamer, and all of that can work together. And it's not just about improving the numbers, but the quality of life totally transformed.
I hope you got a lot out of that. This was a fascinating patient to care for, and the daughter was very, very good. And, we had a lot of fun working with him. So I hope you got a lot out of that. And as usual, if you have a question or comments, put it in the comment box. And until next time, take care. Thanks for watching. If you got value out of this video, please like it, subscribe, and hit the notification button to see our next